Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for another webinar in the Food Industry Executive Webinar Series. Excited to have you all here today for Sustainability of U.S. Soy, sponsored by the United Soybean Board. Before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping items. First, if you have any questions at all, please drop those into the questions panel and we'll answer them at the end of the webinar. We will also send out the recording of this presentation later on this afternoon. So without further ado, I'm thrilled to announce today's presenter, April Hemis. April is a farmer and rancher who has owned and operated her family's 1,000-acre corn and soybean farm in Iowa for nearly 40 years. April has an animal science degree from Iowa State University. As an active participant in the community, April serves on the United Soybean Board, Soy Nutrition Institute, and the Iowa Soybean Board. She also takes on many other national, state, and local leadership roles. April, take it away.
Thank you so much, and I'm so privileged to be here with all of you today. I love this opening slide, sustainability from U.S. soy from farm to fork. It does not mean pitchfork, people. I know some of you think we may still farm like Little House on the Prairie. I'm not saying anything if Mark Messina's on here, but he calls me and says, he asks great questions on how do you do this, and all I know is Little House on the Prairie. So I'm here to tell you how we really do it now, how most farmers are sustainably raising soy. So I just really wanted to give Mark a shout out. So this presentation, a lot of the times I do it for international soybean buyers. And so we start with this to show how efficiently we can get our soybeans anywhere in the world and through our great rail system, river system, and the highways. And there is God's country where that little point is. That's north central Iowa where my farm is. And Iowa is #2 in soybean production. We raise about 14% of all soybeans in the United States. Illinois, to the east of us, is #1. They beat us by a little bit, but they get to double crop, which means they get to raise soybeans maybe more than we do because a lot of it's south. So they cheat. Let's just put it out there. Iowa does a really good job at what we do on this. So the rail system and the rivers, I mean, it's not only international buyers, but we can get it to the food industry people as cheaply and efficiently. And yeah, I know it's not very cheap anymore to get things to you, but that kind of gives you an idea where soybeans are raised and how we can get them to you quickly. Next, about my farm. So other than the information there, it has been in my family over 120 years now. I am very proud. This is my 38th year farming at home on the farm. Like she said, I have a degree in animal science from Iowa State. I also have worked in at Iowa State in a lab. I worked in a bank. I worked in a swine animal testing station. But my last job before coming home to the farm was working in Washington, D.C. for a congressman. And I said, my end goal in life was always to come home to the farm and manage it. And in 1985, home I came. So soybeans and corn on my farm. I do have pasture land. I used to have a cattle herd. I used to have hogs too. Farrow to finish is what we call it. So from the sows having the babies to the end and the cow calf but all that kind of went down the road when my dad and grandpa retired and it was just me and I couldn't do all the work myself. So that's my farm. That's my daughter there. She has a passion for the farm, but that's not what she wanted to do with her life. She's in Seattle. Works at University of Washington. She got her degree from there and she's in administration now, working there and loves what she does, but really looks forward to coming home and managing she's not gonna come home, sorry, to managing the farm. She won't be an active farmer, but just taking over the reins and managing it. What makes me a lot different from most of the other farmers is I'm the farmer, my husband works in town, he pays my health insurance fortunately. But he's ridden in my combine once, and I quote, just to see what a couple $100,000 would buy me. So he really isn't, I make all the decisions from banking to beans, so it's all on me. So that's a bit about my farm, but let's get into the meat of this and why I'm here and what makes my farm so sustainable. These are some of the practices I use. The cover crops I'll talk about in a little bit, but the first picture with the green lines going through the field, that's basically one of my no-till fields, and it does have cover crops on it, but we've terminated them, as we call it. I just plant my soybeans right into the corn stalks or the old cornfield, the cornfield that was there the year before. In Iowa, we have a thing called winter, so it lays dormant from October or whenever I get that corn crop out till I usually plant this in May or early May or late April is when I will plant the beans. I just plant right into the dirt. So it saves on soil erosion, keeps the nutrients and water right in there in the soil, which has been very helpful the last 3 years with the drought we've been having. The middle picture with all the pretty flowers is a pollinator. I look at it as a whole farm, a whole ecosystem. So, you know, the pollinators, I have several acres of those, and I put those on some marginal ground or maybe fence lines that have a lot of trees. It's not going to produce a crop, but it will sure produce flowers and keeps the soil in place where it's at and keeps the butterflies happy. And then in Iowa, water quality is a huge passion for us because all of our water goes down, ends up eventually in the Mississippi down to the Gulf of Mexico. So we know we don't want any more dirt or chemicals or nutrients or anything, you know, going into that water. So, you know, what this picture shows you is the grass strip that's a little bit longer on the left side of the creek. That water or that captures anything that may, if we have a big, you know, rain system or something, that goes slowly through there and it acts as a filter, you know, keeps everything there. Where my neighbor, and trust me, he's a really good farmer, but if he left a little more grass, you can see right there where that's just dirt going into the stream. And we really don't want, I want to stay away from that. So that's what it's called, a buffer strip or filter strip. So edge of field practices really help control and make that water quality a lot better. So that's water management. Precision farming, we're lucky to have a lot of tools in our toolbox in the United States. And we don't want to put any more than we have to on the ground to produce the best crop. I mean, it's just like your companies. You don't want to spend more than you really have to. And we're the same way. So I'll explain that a little bit more later, but the precision tools that we have, equipment, helps us, you know, like precisely give that land what it needs to grow a great crop. And fuels, so all my corn and soybeans one goes to an ethanol plant, and the other, my soybeans go a couple different places, but one of the options is food grade oil or biodiesel. It goes to a biodiesel plant. And then the meal, once that soybean's crushed, it goes to feeding animals, which in Iowa, we have the largest pork herd. 25% of the hogs are raised in Iowa. The largest laying, largest laying flock is in Iowa. We have the most hens here. So livestock is a huge business for us. And that's why we put the beans and corn to good use here. So that's the real life slide of some of the things I do. I do have a wetlands. It's a low-lying area. I used to get stuck in it quite a bit. So I put it into a wetlands and then made a, you know, bermed up so the ducks or geese can have their nests there. But what it does is the water goes in there and then it slowly filters through. So it makes it a higher quality water. Everything, just like the edge of field practices, it acts as a filter, and then that water is much cleaner when it gets down to the water table. So that's some of the things we do there. This slide kind of puts it all together in one place. One over here, like I said, this is precision chemical operation. I also do variable rate for my nutrients. So I have the ability to, when I'm going through applying chemicals or spraying my fields, I can variable rate, like on the top of a hill, it might be sandy, it doesn't need that as much. And then down in the low part or where it's weedy, we can really prescribe what that field needs. So we're not using more than we need. You saw the edge of field practices. Conservation Reserve Program is a program that the government provides. Some of my practices I do get paid for from USDA. Others I don't. I just do it because I know it's needed and it's what's best for the land. Number 3 here is terraces. So those hills, I'll show you one of my fields. I don't have terraces, but the hills, it's called highly erodible land. So these strips or terraces, stop that dirt from washing down and keeping them where it's at. Scouting, I've been actually gone for a little bit. I had a learning tour through the EU. And I came away mostly saying, thank God I farm in the U.S. So, but we've been out scouting and we're seeing insects, but I won't do anything until those either insects or diseases or anything I have out there reaches an economic threshold. Just like you and your businesses, you're not going to do anything you don't need to do. We're the same way. If it stays below a certain level and isn't going to really damage the crop enough to pay to do something, we won't. So we're out there scouting and looking at things all the time. Cover crops, you're going to see me planting into cover crops. I have a couple pictures there coming up. But what cover crops do is it keeps something growing on my farm. Like in November, December, that ground is frozen. But when my corn is tasseled and, in August and starting to lose its green and gets ready to harvest, we fly over cover crops, which is a cereal rye, and it lands, and then that grows. Believe it or not, seeds they drop on the ground and they grow, and that keeps that growing. I'll harvest and you can see that green, and it'll overwinter. And then in the spring, anything that's left over from that crop, those roots take it up. And then it also prevents any washing of the soil and things like that. So it makes that soil much healthier. It gets more organic matter in it and the ability to bring you a better soybean, better crop. So that's part of that with the cover crops, 5-6 crop rotation. So where I'm at, I do a corn soy rotation. With my soils, I can plant corn on corn. I choose not to. I think it's better for my soils to do a rotation, and then I get to raise. In our area, our market is corn and soy. So that's what I do. It also changes up, things that we use on the farm. So it's a good practice that I use. 5, 6, 7. What's 7? No-till. You saw the no-till. You're going to see a little bit more of it, but I'm not tilling the soil. A lot of times in others, you plow, then you'd really turn the soil over deep, and then you run over it again to make it smooth, then you run over it with the planter, then we call row cultivate or dig in between the rows. But with what I do with the no-till is I'll go out there and spray to terminate that cover crop, we call it, kill the cover crop. Then I plant into it while it's still green, and then I go over one more time with the spray, and then I harvest. So I'm saving fuel by doing that. Using less fuel, keeping my all that organic matter there and the soil in place. So no-till, I don't do it on all my acres, but almost all my acres I do. Like I said, we're not, and number 8 right here, that's a liquid manure truck, and they're applying the knife in manure. So that's another precision nutrient management. But for me, I don't use that, but what I do is variable rate my fertilizer. So about every 4 to 5 years, we soil sample, and I send it off to a lab, I get the results, and then the people who put on my fertilizer, which is potash and phosphate that the corn needs. So when it's going into corn, it'll go out there. They put that in the computer program, and it variable rates what that soil needs in that place. It's so great. And I do the same thing in nitrogen in the spring is when my nitrogen goes on. And corn needs that. Beans don't need as much nutrients. Soybeans add nitrogen to the soil. So having a bean crop gives me credit for that nitrogen for the corn the next year. So that's what's great about raising soybeans. But just so you know, everything that's done when we're adding things to the soil is done very precisely, with precision management. And I talked about fuel usage, but this 9 over here, it doesn't quite look like me filling my tractor up, but it's the gift that keeps on giving, the circle of soybean life. I raise my soybeans, I take it to my local places of Cargill or the co-op, but our Cargill plant also has a biodiesel plant, like I said, and it can either go into that or oil, food oil. But then once it gets made into biodiesel, comes back to my farm. I put it in my tractor or combine or whatever I'm using, and then go back out there and plant the crop. So very sustainable fuel source for us. And then irrigation and water. I don't have any irrigation on my farm or water storage ponds, but I was just with a farmer who does have that. He controls it all from his phone. He goes, look, this is how much water I have in the soil. This is when it says I'm going to need to irrigate. I can turn it on from my phone. So, they're not just out there pouring water on, because that costs some money too, but they control that, and it's all monitored, by great precision tools, that give us the ability to really fine tune what we're doing and not use more than what we need. And I think that's a great story that we can tell, is we really are very fortunate to have a lot of things available to us and technologies. So, is it gonna play? There we go. Oh, there's no sound on mine, but I'm planting into a cover crop. So we talked about no-till planting. So that's cereal rye that was flown on, and then it grew. That's not the next picture you can see. And it just depends on if I have enough water or not, from rain. You can see the windmills in the back. So that's me. That's how I planted my soybeans. And then, I'm just driving across the field, planting them in there. And that's what they look like come July. So that is the same field, that you just saw me planting into. And that's another picture of that cover crop. We must have had a bunch more rain when that one was put on. But so what they'll do is spray it, and then I plant into it. It's much easier to plant into when it's green like this. And then come July, that's that beautiful crop that you see right there. That is what's called, I have a lot of highly erodible land, HEL ground. The USDA, since I have a highly erodible land, I follow a farm program, or a farm plan they call it. And we do get spot checked. They'll come out and look at the field. I just had a spot check this year. They come out and make sure we're following the practices that are prescribed for that land. This land is my hilliest ground, and I have to leave so much cover, but I go from what I do in my farming, I go above and beyond what the government suggests I do. So I'm pretty proud of that. There's a stream down there. You can't see it, but underneath there, and this is the main rail line from up in Canada down to the Gulf of Mexico. So I'm very fortunate where I'm at. But that just gives you an idea. You wouldn't think those soybeans would grow just being put in the dirt, but and with healthy soils, they just really take off and do really good. Okay, here we go. Combining. Is this gonna work? Okay. So look at that field. You just see a whole bunch of soybeans. There's my monitors. It's just an iPad, one of them. 65 bushel an acre beans. There I am. Hi, April. Yeah. So what that, let's see if that's, oh, it's gonna go again. So I love to show this because, oh, I see it went around. Maybe let's play that again just because it's fun. What this shows, you don't see weeds out there. You don't see anything but soybeans. So I like to show this to say, hey, this is the high quality crop we're bringing you. It's mostly soybeans. You'll see some, pods and other things in there. But what that does, that's a 30-foot, we call it grain table. So it's running this far off the ground. So I always say, I love running a big vacuum out there. And if there's no vac on there, but if rocks are not kind to combine. So, you're always watching, you're looking. There is auto steer on the combine. So I set it, I put it in auto steer. I can pay attention to what's going on. You see all the monitors I have, but it's just soybeans coming in there. And that's what the technology gives. It's I'm 100% genetically modified soybeans, and that's what makes me better at doing the no-till, controlling weeds, things like that. And that's my market. I can raise anything, but my market is for those beans, close by. And I'm going to raise what I can afford to economically get to a market. So, but with no weeds, that gives you a much higher quality soybean. For you have to do less cleaning, less decoloring. I know in South America, it gets a really red tint, but we're so fortunate in the U.S., to have such high quality beans. So those beans go in there, it goes up the throat. It's called, I was kind of sitting on top of it. And then it goes through, it has a rotor in there and this big thing, and it goes around and it takes the beans out of the pod. And then it goes in an elevator up to the tank that was right behind me. And I use the same combine for corn. I just take that platform off and then put a corn head on. So that's what I do for 1 month out of the year, combine corn and soybeans. So that's kind of a little bit of a year in the life of April and what I do, but just know that I'm not the only farmer out here farming like this. There's a lot of us that care very much for our land. I want to be able to, pass it down to my daughter better than I got it. And you will hear every farmer say that. I've never heard a farmer that hasn't. And, that's just what we want to do. We want to, and we care about what's around us because we live here. I'm not going to do anything to the people I love that I live with or around here that I think is bad. So, that's why I farm the way I do and efficiently. We've talked about that and getting it to you the best way we can. Sustainability in the food industry. I have to tell you, I was very fortunate to participate in a Culinary Institute of America with chefs and farmers, and they got to ask us a bunch of questions, and then they got to boss me around in the kitchen because we made recipes and then we developed recipes, or they did. I just stood around. But but it was a great time. And, you know, it showed me I have to do a lot more of this, explaining what I do and why I do what I do. And then when we were in the kitchen, which is not my forte, they were really bossing me around. And I said, okay, I'm used to being the boss lady. But I will take it in this case because you guys are the expert. So they lovingly called us, our team, the farmer boss lady team. So no, but we had a great time. What a giving group of people. They exchanged ideas. It was just great fun. And we got to show off our high quality Ohio Lake soybean oil, which I'll talk about in a bit. But we get to sustainably, you know, give you this product. And I can't remember if this is where I was going to talk about this or not, but yeah, here it is. So sustainability continues. So your customers are asking for sustainability, and we know that. And that's why we want to do the most we can on our farms to give you a sustainable product with everything I just said. Whether you want to call it regenerative, you put sustainable, you put whatever tagline you want to on it. But now you've seen what I do and why I do it. But like my intro said, I'm on the Soy Nutrition Institute, and I happen to be on with, if you look at your camera, I don't know if you can see that, but this lovely protein drink has a, I don't know if you, Sustainable U.S. soy. So this is a label used to tell your customers, it's available to tell your customers that you're using sustainable ingredients. And now you can say, and I heard a farmer talk about it, but we made this available because we know how important it is to people out there. It's just something that has become really, other than locally raised, and knowing it comes from the U.S., sustainable is very important too. So, you know, that's one way. This label is one way you can reach out to your customers saying, hey, this is what we're doing. This is a great story. So hopefully you'll sell more product. Oh, hey, that worked. Sorry. I want to make sure I did that right. Yeah. You know, this slide gives you a little bit more of the locally raised. It's in the U.S. It's a high quality product. We have it available. We're going to have a lot this year. I know there's a lot in the news about, you know, oils being put into renewable diesel. Well, we've had biodiesel for a while, and trust me, if there is a need, the farmers will meet the need. And if there's one thing we're good at, we're good at producing. We're very fortunate to have that ability and have the great soils to keep producing high quality crops here, and pretty good yields to go along with it. This is very, very important now, and that the people know where their food comes from, and to be able to say it was raised in the U.S. is a great message to have. Isn't this this has become so important now, and that truck going down the interstate costs a whole lot more to send down the interstate. And you know, we're container shipments, containers have gone up, everything has gone up. So right here in the U.S., we have the domestic supply to get it to you. And trust me, we farmers are fighting the same inflation you are. My fertilizer has gone up 4 times since 2 years ago when all this started. Chemicals have over doubled. Diesel fuel over twice as much. So we're facing the same high inputs you are. I just have to, the market doesn't really care if I'm not making money, but fortunately now it's a good price for us. But you know, that's how I make my money. I sell my crops, you know, to my market. So that's what it is. But the supply chain, like the map showed right away, much shorter if you get it within the U.S. and all year round. I mean, they're delivering corn today. We store on the farm, so we have a lot of things. We have a lot of the soybeans are available all the time. And it, you know, it just means you're more competitive throughout the world with the great supply we have. Increasing volumes, lower costs. Boy, hasn't this is so important now, and then especially with the Ohio Lake food. I love to showcase Ohio Lake, especially in the fryer like was before. I don't have the, let's see, lower maintenance. It doesn't, I always say it doesn't gunk up. I don't know if that's a technical term in the food world, but you know, you don't get the plasticky, ooky stuff. Yeah, that's ooky is, yeah, that's a farmer term. But it may cost more in the beginning, but it's really a cost savings in the end. It performs so well. The people like it because it's a neutral flavor, and the qualities that it has is very similar to olive oil, and that is a huge thing. So, you know, please look into Ohio Lake oil. It is very good, you know, for, well, like I said, especially the frying, but the tests we've done, people have really enjoyed using it. And there isn't as much on the market now, but every year the supply grows. Quite frankly, from the farmer point of view or the processor point of view, they have to change the whole processing plant over to Ohio Lake. So that's why, you know, in Iowa, most of ours goes to feed. So I don't have a market close by to be able to deliver that Ohio Lake, or to grow a Ohio Lake to afford to get it to a market. But many other markets around there are crushing these Ohio Lake soybean to get the oil. And it's really been a great product for us. There's a lot of industry uses for it. So check it out if you already haven't. That's what I want to finish with. But the logistics, I remember something I forgot to say, but let me go back to the slide. The shorter supply chain. The war in Ukraine has really put a magnifying glass on the supply chain. It just threw a wrench into everything. We all had our places where we sent things, but it just shows how fortunate we are in the U.S. to have such a great supply, and we have the food, it's available, and we're very fortunate to have, you know, to live here and have things available to us. So at a competitive price, our shelves are pretty much full. But so our U.S. So you know, this is a great statement, and I can say it over and over again, but I do what I do because I think it's the best for my farm ground. I want to keep my asset the highest quality I can, my assets, my soil, and keep that good. And the things I do, I know are better for my soils, and I use less, and I'm able to grow more. Through everything, I have over doubled my yields, you know, in the years I've been farming. And that's because I have all those precision and technical tools available to me. And more and more, we're gonna need to raise more on less ground, you know, just for the growing population. So thank you so much. I think that was my last slide. Boy, I took longer than I thought, sorry. There I am, outstanding in my field. Now that's me in front of my combine, but thank you so much. I really look forward to questions. And thanks for listening about how I raise my soybeans.
Thank you so much, April. It doesn't look like anybody has submitted any questions yet. So go ahead and, I'm sorry.
Nobody wants to know. There's probably 5 people out there. No.
All right, so as a reminder, you can put your questions in the panel right now. We will be sending out the recording of this broadcast as well, so feel free to share with your colleagues far and wide. But for now, I just want to thank you all so much for joining us today. And thank you so much, April, for the excellent presentation. Just keep an eye out on your inbox for the recording of the event and have a really good rest of your day.